Hello and welcome to Truth Matters Unplugged. I have some breaking new evidence that the Charlie Kirk assassination might well have been planned well in advance. Perhaps from Israel. So let's get into it. There's been just a lot of sleuths on the internet going after their own hunches, digging through the files, the videos, the photos, going to the UVU and scoping out the place, and just doing a lot of work, trying to figure out what was behind the Charlie Kirk assassination and what's true and what's not. Because the FBI and the DOJ is not releasing information. Neither of these organizations nor the Utah law enforcement are open about what they find, and it's probably understandable because there is an ongoing case. However, if we see how the JFK assassination and other things happened, and we don't get the information for 100 years, then maybe we are rightfully asking questions. And what's really going on? Are we being lied to? But I want to get to a sleuth on the internet who did some very good work. He had a hunch. He said, what if Charlie Kirk's assassination was planned ahead of time and these people searched for specific terms before September 10th? Now, Google has tools that you can use to look for where searches originated from and how many searches were done on a specific search term. It's called Google Trends. And so Baron Coleman on YouTube has done that. And he started immediately. And he found some very interesting things. Now, before I continue, I'd like you to subscribe to my channel. This would really help me out. So there you go. And also subscribe to Baron Coleman. His handle on YouTube is @RealBaronPodcast. And so subscribe to him too. Help him out. And I'm going to play for you a clip from his where he shows that there were just fascinating searches done on Tyler James Robinson, on, for example, the medical examiners at the Tappahannock Regional Hospital where Charlie was taken before the assassination. And it's a spike. And these searches originate from Israel, from Washington, D.C., and nowhere else. How suspicious is that? So this is a clue. It may not prove anything. It doesn't conclusively say anything, but it's a clue. And it points again to Israel. So, by the way, Tyler Robinson, how many of you knew that James is his middle name? So to search for Tyler James Robinson is also very specific. This is very specific. This gets to, there are many Tyler Robinsons in the country. So, and why would you search for the medical examiners at the regional hospital all of a sudden? What would spark that? We don't know who conducted the autopsy on Charlie, if an autopsy was carried out. Everything we have is hearsay. We also, the trajectory of the bullet in his body and the damage that was done, C2 through C6, the bullet was found near T1 with fragments in that vicinity, and C2 through C6 destroyed, is hearsay. We don't have the autopsy in front of us. We don't know who the medical examiner was who did that. But we can look up who medical examiners were at that hospital, and that's what Baron Coleman did. Okay? So let's take a look at one of his videos here. Let's take a look at that.
This bullet would have normally gone through almost anybody but Charlie. Not Charlie, he's made of steel. But he didn't give the surgeon's name. And again, remember, Deidre Mora, they didn't do an autopsy, I don't think. At least that's the news on the street. They didn't do an autopsy. So I go and I get a list of all the surgeons I can find at the Orem branch of Timpanogos Regional Hospital. And I think, could anyone have looked up any of these people? Somebody with an IP address originating in Israel in the week of July 20, that week on either side of July 20, was very interested in all the people who practiced surgery at Timpanogos Regional Hospital in Orem, Utah.
Okay, so let's discuss. I am very impressed by this, by Baron. I think this is very good work that you found this. And because I think if somebody did plan this ahead of time, they would have searched some things on Google. Google is not the only search engine, of course, but that aside. Now, my own suspicion has been, if I had to put money on the table, and what's my hunch, did Tyler Robinson conduct this act by himself? I would say no. Why? I would say no because Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. The event started at noon. So people were coming in. Charlie did not arrive at noon. Tyler Robinson must have, if he did it alone, he must have rehearsed it and checked on it and run this through on the campus a few times beforehand to know which roof to go to, how to get access to that roof, where the tent was, where Charlie would be. There are obstructions. If he just moved a little bit to the one side, there would be obstructions. He shot past a building from the position where he was. To get on that roof, you had to know how to do that. Or it was planned ahead of time for him, and he had help. Now, there are already a lot of suspicion that there was foreknowledge about the shooting. The guy who stood up and with his arms in the air and cheering when Charlie got shot. People shouted, USA, USA, USA. There was George Zinn, who pulled his pants down and said, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, and who was a distraction. There are suspicious things going on. There are certainly suspicious things going on. There's the chat room on Discord. But if you ask me, would a trans shooter, would that be the best motive to kill Charlie? I would say no. So a trans activist, leftist, Antifa, is that the best motive? Maybe if you have a crazy enough person, but we have a lot of crazies now. How much do we know about crooks at the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt? Nothing. Why is that so quiet? Why don't we have more information about him? Did he plan it all by himself? Did he figure out where to go? How was he able to walk around with a drone, flying a drone before the event, walk around with a rangefinder, get on a roof with snipers and law enforcement all over the place, in that building and on the building, or around the building, ladder placed there conveniently? How did he know how to do that? And how did he get within that proximity to the president, right? The former president at the time, with all that law enforcement, with a rifle. I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense that these people worked alone. No. What about the motive of Israel's allegiance to Israel? That Charlie was considering and contemplating and wavering about his allegiance to Israel. Candace's story. I don't think so. Charlie was a big supporter of Israel. And I think there would have been a much more to win by winning him over, by changing strategies and so forth, than to, murder him. So I don't believe that as a motive. Now, I did release my probability forensics matrix. And I encourage you, if you are interested in searching through which theory is the best one, which conspiracy theory or which hypothesis, look at that video that I released. And you can adapt this thing to include your assumptions and your clues and your hunches and so forth, to add that as well. But this is a way to sort through all the different hypotheses against the available evidence that you have, okay? And then quantify that to give you sort of a number and see where the problems are and get a visual map it out visually. But other than that, I want to say, Baron Coleman, you did a fantastic job. And this is worth pursuing, is why were these searches done? Why were these searches conducted on medical examiners and on people associated and things associated with this assassination, terms associated with it from Israel and from DC? Thanks for watching. Truth Matters, over and out.